Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be going over the Lloyd case. This case was brought to my attention by a subscriber. Hello, Lisa Masters. Thank you for subscribing. If anyone else would like to subscribe, feel free to do so. I really do appreciate it. And if you have anything you want me to deep dive into, you want me to get to the nitty gritty, all the juicy details and information, leave it in a comment. If there's a case that you want me to cover of a missing person, a serial killer, a cryptid creature, whatever the case may be, if you want me to cover something, I will do the work, I will deep dive into it, and I will bring you that information. Just leave me a comment and I'll get to it, I promise. All right. So this particular case, as I said, was brought to my attention by Lisa, and she wants me to go over the Michelle Lloyd case, so that is what I'm doing. Let's get into it. All right. Echo had gone through a divorce. From what I've seen, it was a mutual split. There was no ill will, no ill intent towards each other. It was completely amicable. She decided to move to a remote part of the Ozarks to be alone and heal, according to her daughter. She moved to the small town of Edwards, Missouri, with an estimated population of 2,500 people. She loved the property she bought with its beautiful, secluded 10 acres. She had spoken of plans of painting the house and fixing up the landscaping and how much she enjoyed the quiet around the Lake of the Ozarks. Michelle Lloyd is 5'4", has brown hair and brown eyes, and weighs around 100 to 110 pounds. She has a couple of tattoos. Now, from what I found, it's apparently not certain on where these tattoos specifically are. I've seen pictures of her with a tattoo on, I believe, her upper left side, but it could be a mirrored photo. That tattoo is not mentioned anywhere when they speak of her tattoos, and that's probably because it is pictured. That's my guess. But apparently, her other two tattoos, one of them, it says "Let It Be" with birds, and it's apparently on her forearm. And then the other one is on her wrist, and it is the name of her 4 children. That's the one that I've gotten the details from multiple sites mixed up. One site says it's on her wrist, one site says it's on her forearm, another one just says it's on her arm. It doesn't specifically say where, but all of them say that it is it's of her 4 children's names, which are Kelsey, Casey, I think that's what it is, Kelsey, Casey, Caitlin, and Kylie. Echo was reported missing on May 15th, 2020, when her daughter informed authorities that she hadn't seen her mother in 2 weeks and that she had last spoken to her mother on May the 9th. The daughter, Kelsey Smith, stated that she had driven to her mother's home in Edwards, Missouri on May 10th to bring her flowers and a Mother's Day card, having just spoken with her mother the day prior, as I said. When she discovered that her mother wasn't home, she tried calling and got no answer. She left the flowers and the card on the front porch. Kelsey did state, "It was just odd. The house phone went to voicemail. I knew something wasn't right." Now, I will state that later she did say that her mother's car was there. Her mother's car was at the house, but her mother wasn't answering, and it didn't appear her mother was home. But from what I read, her mother was known for taking some long walks, and she probably assumed that her mom was just on a long walk, technology free, let's leave the phone at home, go on a nature walk. It happens, especially if that's what you enjoy in life, is the peace and quiet. 5 days later, Kelsey returned to her mother's house. She still had not heard from her mother, and this worried her, so she went back to the house. The flowers and the card were still sitting on the porch, which worried her tremendously. So she decided, since she did not have a key, she was going to break into the house and see if her mom was in there and needed help. She went around to the back of the house. She saw that one of the windows was cracked open. She pushes the window open the rest of the way and climbs on through. This is what she sees. She stated, "I could tell someone else had been there. Someone, but not my mother. It was ransacked, but there was a mattress on the floor in front of the couch, and there were piles of trash strewn about, and there was a can on the kitchen island sitting open, half eaten, and the can of food that was left had mold in it, so it had been there. The air conditioning was on full blast." She stated, "My mother was diagnosed with OCD. She would never have left the house like this." Investigators did find a receipt in Echo's bathtub, of all places, from the Dollar General in Warsaw, Missouri, dated the day she went missing. Echo was last seen on the day she went missing, 5/10/2020, at Walmart and Dollar General in Warsaw, Missouri. Now, for my opinion so far, a change in routine or an obvious abrupt change in one's environment and behavior is a sign that something has occurred, whether that be that someone else has been there or that there was a stressor that broke the mind. Something occurred. This woman was diagnosed with OCD. She kept a very neat, prim, and proper home. They get into the home, absolutely ransacked. Obviously, either she was in a panic and something went wrong, she had a mental breakdown and was leaving trash everywhere, because it happens. I'm not saying this is what happened in this case, but it does happen. It is an obvious change in the character of the person, which proves that something happened, something occurred. Kelsey also stated that her mother's cigarettes, her purse, and her wallet containing her ID were all still inside the home. Her car still in the driveway, as I said, but her phone, her medications, and her car keys were all missing. Now, why would her car keys be missing, but her car's sitting right there? Someone breaks into the house, they could steal the phone and the medications, but why wouldn't they take the purse? Why wouldn't they take her wallet? It's very weird. It almost feels to me like a crime of opportunity, or maybe they specifically wanted her medications. I don't know what she was on. She could have been on something that someone is addicted to. I don't know. Putting it out there though. Now, the police assumed that the mother, she just ran off. Yeah, she just ran off. She got through a divorce. She probably ran off with a guy. That is literally what they assumed. After seeing that the house had been ransacked, that there's trash everywhere, after speaking with family members stating from the family members that that is not normal behavior, completely dropped the ball and said, "Oh, she's a woman. She probably just ran off with a guy." It happens. It really doesn't happen that often. It's very rare. A lot of these cases that you can look up and go into, guess what? The woman didn't run out with some man, especially a woman who, at this age of 47, a woman who had plans for that home. Plus, if someone's going to run off with a guy, they're going to take their wallet. They're going to take their phone. They're going to take their purse. They're especially going to take their medications that they need. These are not frivolous medications. These are needed medications from what I was reading. If they're going to run off, they're not going to do it willy-nilly. This is not a drug addict who has gotten super high and run off. That's not this person. And a lot of the times that's not the case. But now there are good officers out there, but a lot of the times, especially, now this is a 2020 case, but I've noticed especially like in the 1980s and 90s, a lot of women were just written off that, oh, if it was a girl and she was under the age of 18, she just ran away. Oh, we found her years later and she was murdered? What? We never looked for her. She ran away, remember? No, she didn't. And this goes for men as well. I've read cases where there have been young men. It's like, oh, well, he had an issue with drugs in the past. Okay, but he was sober and clean, so why didn't you go look for him? It bothers me. It bothers me on a spiritual level. It really, pardon my language, it pisses me off. Now, the police do a lot of good. They do find a lot of people, but there's so many cases where people are just kind of brushed aside. And I feel like this was one of those cases where she was brushed aside. And I hate to say it, it's been 5 years. She's probably been dead the whole time. That's my opinion. I hope I'm dead wrong. I hope that they find her. I hope they find her alive. But anyone who knows crime knows that that window of opportunity to find clues, that window of opportunity to talk to people and develop suspects is small. It's a small window. And the larger that window gets, the more likely you're not going to find them. Sorry for that rant. Let's get back into it. So Kelsey stated to the police whenever they assumed that her mother had just run off, Kelsey stated her mother would not have left her family. Echo's family suspected foul play, but the authorities initially stated that they did not suspect foul play at all. The family feels that precious time was lost due to authorities not initially believing this is a crime scene and initially thinking that she simply ran off. The next door neighbor's grandson and close friend of Echo, Lloyd, interestingly enough, did not help search for his friend. And he, as I said, he lives with his grandfather, who is Echo's next door neighbor. 2 weeks after Echo's disappearance, the grandfather was found in the basement of his home suffering from a broken back. He is taken to the hospital and he ended up succumbing to his injuries days later, which is very sad. According to Kelsey, while removing the grandfather from the basement, Echo Lloyd's missing prescriptions and her car keys were found in the basement of the neighbor's home. According to Kelsey, police still did not get a search warrant for the neighbor's house to go through it. Oh, people come in and they take away the old man. You know, hopefully the old man had nothing to do with anything and he just has a really crappy grandson. That happens a lot. And he ends up passing away. But while they're taking him out, they find the medication and the missing keys. That's probable cause. They should have, that's more than enough to get a search warrant, and they should have searched the house right then and there. Now, Echo Lloyd had mentioned this neighbor to her daughter Kelsey in the past, stating that he liked her and would flirt with her. He was much younger than her and she was fresh out of divorce and not interested. She did not reciprocate these feelings. And according to Kelsey, her mom had told the neighbor that she wasn't interested in a relationship of any kind with him. The neighbor also had a spare key to Echo's home, whereas her own daughter did not have a spare key to the house. So it is very odd that she would give a key to someone who, yes, was her neighbor, that she didn't like at all. So I don't think she would. If she gave a key to anyone that was a neighbor, I would think it would be the old man. Maybe his grandson took it. Maybe that was prior to finding out that the grandson lived there. But I still think it's more likely that, and this is my opinion, that the grandson had gotten close to her enough to where he snagged her keys, went, made a copy of her keys, and then maybe dropped them by her front porch so that she could find them. This is just a theory, so that she could find them later whenever she thought her keys were missing. That way he had a spare key, because her own daughter, one of her kids, mind you, none of her children, no family member had a key to her house. Oh, it was also noted that the neighbor, the grandson of the neighbor, had purchased 9 bags of cement around the time that Echo went missing. By the time authorities actually went to question and investigate the neighbor, a substantial amount of time had passed, and they only found 1 bag of cement in the basement. Again, as I said prior, time is important. Authorities are now using drones and other measures in and around the property this spring/summer in hopes of finding a sign of echo. So I think they should also compare, my opinion, and I'm going to see if I can find it, and if I can, I'll put it up. But they should also see if they can have a former Google Maps, like 2018 Google Maps picture of the property and the neighbor's property and everything around, and then scooch over to 2020 / like late 2020 and see if they can see anything disturbed, anything different. And since there was concrete purchased, if there's, I don't know, there's an extra step at the dude's house or something to use 8 bags of concrete for. Now, mind you, the person could have dug a big hole, dumped the body, put in a whole bunch of concrete, and covered it back up with dirt and sprinkled it with wildflowers. I don't know. That way, who would be the wiser? Oh, it's a new, fresh garden. If it had enough dirt, no one would be the wiser. But, and again, since there are 8 bags of concrete, I think LiDAR would show underground concrete, right? It shows structures. I think it would show something. So that might be an option if they haven't already used LiDAR. At this point, the case has been turned over to the Missouri State Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime Control. That's a mouthful. Despite excessive searches across bodies of water, land, caves, and with assistance from the Missouri State Highway Patrol's Division of Drugs and Criminal Control, also called the DDCC, who took over the case shortly after it was reported to the sheriff's office. There remains no concrete evidence. Concrete, really? Okay. There remains no concrete evidence regarding Echo's whereabouts. Now, the family has established a Facebook page dedicated to finding Echo titled Bring Echo Home. Anyone with information is asked to call the Benton County Sheriff's Office at 660-438-6135 or the Missouri State Highway Patrol's Missing Person Clearinghouse at 573-526-6178. I really hope that the efforts that are now being put forth help to find her body, because I'm fully believing that she's passed away. Unfortunately, that typically is how it goes, especially if she needed medications to live. I don't know what all of her medications were. She had multiple, but it was stated that these were needed medications. Personally, I think that she's gone. And I really hope that the efforts that are now being used will yield her body being found, so that at least she can be buried properly and the person or persons responsible can be brought to justice. Because it breaks my heart, because this woman had gone there to what she saw as a super peaceful area and a place that she wanted to spend the rest of her life, and she did. As far as I'm concerned, she's dead there. And could that have been changed with the police doing what they should have done in the first place sooner? Probably not, but too much time passed before they actually started doing anything, and them writing it off as her running off really hurt it a lot. So it's very important for investigators and police to do their job well and to do it quickly. It's a tough job. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a difficult job, but you need someone who's a perfectionist, who's not going to cut corners, who's going to care about what they're doing. I really hope that 2025 is the year that they find Echo Lloyd. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and as I said before, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I do appreciate it. And as I said before, if you have a case you want me to cover, a murder case, a serial killer case, a cryptid case, something that you want me to cover, just let me know. I'll make whatever video that you like about it. So I like doing research. I like deep diving into crime. So just let me know. All right. Bye.